Hi, Linda and I are both here live, and to some people who've been following our life, that's kind of an exciting thing.
We're falling apart.
Yeah, well, we're at that age. Anyway, I just want to show this, and then we'll get into the other stuff. Why don't we all take a minute before Linda comes on just to send her love, light, and healing? This was in the whole chat was about Linda having had a crisis. What we're going to do is Linda wants to do the interview first, and then we will talk about illness, recovery, and
Yes.
kind of learning about things in the new age. Okay.
But I'm doing good. We need that PET scan to get more specific. It's probably a little tiny stone in my kidney or something.
Yeah, it's precautionary. So,
but no fever, no vomiting, no god awful pain. I'm hanging in there, you guys. Okay. Thank you so much for the prayers.
So what we're going to do now is, I had this idea about doing psychic profiles because I went through kind of an interesting crisis 2 months ago. It was actually 2 months ago I got released from the hospital. And I went through kind of an interesting crisis. And I thought there's a whole lot of people who don't have the vaguest idea where readers come from, how we start, how we get to go where we're going. So I have 20 questions. I'm asking each of the readers the same questions. And if there's one I ask you don't want to answer, you can say, that's too personal.
I can say next.
Yeah. Okay. When did you feel like first realized you might have psychic abilities?
Probably when I was 8, when I saw Jesus.
Okay. And that's your single aha moment. And then did it gradually build up from there?
Yeah, but I didn't follow the path. I loved Jesus. Even though my parents were atheists. But my real path happened post-cancer.
Okay. And so, but you had those experiences as a child. Did anyone in your early years try to tell you, no, you can't do that? Or did you share it with anybody?
No. My mom saw spirits. She didn't like it, though.
Yeah, my mom could see death. When she met people with about 6 months before they died, she'd know they were going to die. She was a nurse. Can you imagine being like that?
Gosh.
And that's why when I picked up a deck of cards, she went like, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And only when I was in my 50s and was really kind of out there reading at tables and stuff, did she sit down and talk to me about it. But yeah, I think the generation before us had even worse in feeling like you can't do that.
My mom was scared to death. And I found out my grandmother, who died when my mom was 12 years old, was intuitive. But she didn't discuss it because they were very Catholic. Isn't that funny? Native Americans being Catholic. I got the sign of the cross on my forehead for having the third eye, and that's all Catholic related.
I know. My mother was an Episcopalian, but anyway. Did you seek training or did you just sort of explore this as your own path?
I just went along with it. I had a man in Laguna Beach, my hairdresser, handed me a deck of cards and he said, play with these. You'll be better than me.
Cool. Were there specific tools? You got cards initially. Were there specific tools that you've more gravitated to?
Yeah, I love the Morgan Greer. I've always loved the Morgan Greer deck. I think they're the prettiest deck. And I like our gal's cards too. That prediction deck. Trish James.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the Morgan Greer. I really enjoy them.
You know, the Queen of Swords in that's what I used as my logo.
Oh, okay.
Because when I was reading at that time, that's what I looked like, was the Queen of Swords.
Now, there was a book that Eileen Connolly, someone told me about her book years ago. You can still get it on Amazon. And she does little short poems for each card. And I found it fascinating. And that's some of the stuff I got was from that. But the cards talk to me sometimes with the spread in different ways. So I tell people who are professional readers, don't look at the cards because they're speaking to me differently than they'll speak to you.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes I know what the answer is before I put the cards out.
Yeah, me too.
So, Did you have any particular mentors or teachers? Is there an individual that you went to for training or to get
The one
enhanced?
who taught me, well, she didn't teach me. The one who read me, Patricia McLean, who's now deceased, and told
Mm-hmm.
me I was going to get married 2 more times. I was going to have 2 sons, and I was going to be sought after, pushing 60. Uh,
Cool.
and people would seek me out. And I thought she was cray cray because
Yeah.
I did not want any more children.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 2 boys. And she said they might be twins or they're just real close together.
Yours are close together.
Yes.
Okay. What's the best piece of advice a mentor like that gave you? Someone you've met that you could consider a mentor?
Go with the flow. Get out of your own way. And the other mentor for me is Eckhart Tolle. Because
Yes.
I started reading his books and I could feel myself being outside of my body. I get so high as a kite. But the main thing is to be in oneness, to just get out of your own way. When I'm reading someone, sometimes the chatter is interrupting,
Mm-hmm.
chatter too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to be disregard what they have to say, but I have to tell them, do me a favor, you got to breathe. You have to allow. Don't stand before something before it even happens. You're not getting what you want because you're in a state of resistance.
That's right. Or I want to be able to, people want us to hand them a cookie cutter of how to do this, and it's really who you are.
I know there's great teachers out there, but I'm just not one of them.
I can teach tarot, but anyway. How did you learn the difference between psychic impressions and your imagination?
Oh, God, that's hard to do. The main thing is I have to ground myself and get out of my own way. And then I go, even if sometimes it's hard to hear and you just got to say, because the hard part is reading when you've got skin in the game.
Right.
Like I can't read who's going to win if my team is playing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful.
Yes. And I can't read my kids.
No, me neither. Or
And
myself.
I can't read myself, and I can't read their spouses. But as soon as they're divorced, open season. Are there moments where you've really doubted yourself?
Yeah, when Biden lost,
Trump?
Vice President Harris lost, I was like so upset. And I lost 1,000 subscribers, and I told the gang over there, why? Well, I think she won now. I think it was stolen. But why? Why would you say that she's winning and she didn't? And they told me this exact words. Man has free will, which we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we have free will to cheat, I guess, if we want to cheat. And his people need to know who he really is.
That's really important. What I got was, well, I don't know, the night of the election, before it even looked like she was going to lose, I stood up, looked at my daughter, and started speaking in tongues and fell to the floor. And the kids called the fire department, and they came and they checked me out, and they said, her blood pressure is completely normal. Her oxygen sats are normal, but she looks a little out. Maybe she just needs to go to bed. And so I remember seeing firemen's faces putting me in my bed. And
Girl, I said, I'm dreaming.
Oh, and they're cute here too.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I rolled over the next morning. My daughter came in and she said, it's bad news. And I said, she lost. And she said, yes. And she said, Mom, what happened to you last night? Where did you go? And they didn't bother. They have to walk through my office with all my crystals and my grids and stuff in here. And they said, don't look over there. Just get her in the bed. And I said, why am I not in a hospital? I remember standing up thinking, I really need to get to the bathroom, and then nothing. And she said, we don't know where you went, but something took you away. And she said, but we knew you were coming back. I knew you were coming back. So, and I looked at her and I said, well, I was collapsed on the floor. They're supposed to take you to the hospital. And she said, your blood pressure was normal and your oxygen sats were normal. Well, Linda, my blood pressure's never normal till after this last incident where they give me a pill. That's the only pill I take, but it keeps it normal. And I said, you didn't question when they said my blood pressure is normal? And she said, no, we were so grateful it wasn't worse. And it took me, and then I heard about all the other readers that woke up at 2 a.m. and felt this rush of this change through you. And my guides told me an energy swept the world that night, and they decided they weren't playing with the humans anymore. We were going to get it right this time or not. So that's what swept through. And apparently they took me away. So I agree. That was a rough day.
Very rough. And it's lovely to see his numbers plummeting. He's just much ado about nothing, going nowhere.
That's right. How did you handle the skepticism from yourself and others when you were first going?
Well, there's always been skepticism. There always will be. And I say, that's fair enough. Don't watch my show or don't ask a question, you know.
I'm not chasing you down the street with a deck of cards hitting you.
There was that guy I talk about, Joe, who came to have a reading, and his mom and dad had died, and the neighbor had a reading with me and recommended, but he was totally skeptic. I just want you to know I don't believe in any of this, but I'm coming because she told me to come. And he was like this, and he had all kinds of tats on him and piercing. And he sits down, and I said, who is that little lady following you in here? She's just a wee thing. He started screaming, crying, Mama. So I described her, I guess, exactly how she was. And then I saw a taller man, Hispanic man. That was his father. So it was so much fun, you know. But if you can help people, they'll take the help. If they don't need it, they don't need it.
And if they want, I mean, it's their choice. There's light and there's dark.
I don't try to convince anybody.
Have your abilities gone through stronger and weaker phases?
Yeah, they do. Especially if I'm not feeling well. Like yesterday, I had the flank pain. I had the heat on it. I wouldn't have gone up and done a show than the Man in the Moon, because I know if something is not right, you know. But you remember after I had the boobs redone, took out the ones that were going to cause cancer. And I went on the next day with I'm Not Dead Yet.
Yes.
Wise move. I felt fantastic.
I know. Well, you know, I sort of popped back up. The first thing people said to me when I started back on the air, I wouldn't come back on when I was on 24-hour oxygen because I wasn't going to sit there with that little.
Yeah.
But I only have it at night now. And as soon as I came back on, I was on with Scott, the only political show I do, which is on Sunday mornings. I read politics with Scott Allen. And he said, you look younger. Did you get a facelift? And I said, no, it's still my 76 years of wrinkles and crap. Okay, this is one that's I think is real important for people to learn. When I teach courses, the first thing I teach them is the violet flame and how to protect their energy, how to find the best.
Kind of stuff a lot of my people can use. I can't teach it because I don't know it, but you can teach it.
I can teach it, or they can just go to my website, www.crystaldirections.com. There's a resource folder in the top, and they can download a PDF of the Violet Flame.
Okay.
Which is
guys, she has donate at Crystal Directions PayPal and
right. That's my website.
Yeah, give it to her.
If you come there, and that's where I have all the pictures of my grids. I built a grid this weekend. This is real ready.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It's called Healing, which I thought was appropriate considering you're here.
I still got mine's.
Yeah, I still see it in the background every once in a while. It's
so beautiful.
That's one you got while you were just starting to write your book. That was the energy I put in it was for you to finish the book at work. So you don't have a method. I do have a method for protecting energy, and I cannot tell you how important I think it is that people learn to do that. this one woman got my violet flame, and she'd been reading in this one room in her house for years. She just set it in there, and she thought, oh, well. And then she thought, the room looks lighter. There's more light in here. And so then she said, it's in your head. So she went and read it throughout the rest of her house. And this was back during the very end of COVID. And she had one friend that could come over and visit her. And her friend walked in the front room and she goes, did you change the drapes or something? It's so much lighter in here. That woman said, made her a believer. She said, there's not a week goes by that when I'm vacuuming, I'm not going around saying the violet flame.
That's great.
Okay, this is your wisdom and insights. Do you think psychic abilities are innate, or can anyone develop them? Do you think they're innate? They're just born? I mean, I know some of us are born more aware of it, but does everybody have it?
Natural human condition too, because when we were out in the grabbing animals and trying to survive, we had that ability.
Telepathy.
Yeah. My dad said bah humbug to this, but you wouldn't believe the stuff you would know ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, have you seen the...
I had a feeling, the other day, Evelyn, I had a feeling. He always got feelings.
Mm-hmm. And
I told him, Dad, you got a feeling you're going to slide me $100 bill, and he didn't think that was funny.
Could have worked. You never know.
Never.
What signs might someone notice if they're gifted?
Well, the real connection to source, which is the higher realm that comes with gifted people, is all of a sudden you'll notice, and Eckhart Tolle talks about this, and I'm starting to notice it in my life, where you're not reactive like you used to be.
No.
You go with the flow. It's like that Buddhist that said, how do I find Zen? They're walking up a path. Master, how do I find Zen? And he said, do you hear that stream at a distance? He said, no, I don't hear it. He said, be quiet, stand still and listen. Oh, I hear it now. I hear it. He said, that is. So
that's true.
Being in the moment made me less reactive.
Right. We live in too loud a world.
Yes.
That's why being out in nature.
Right. Well, remember that guy told me in my ear, you're going to do a YouTube channel. Not too many people get that. But it was loud and clear, and I protested because I did not want to have to get him put any face makeup on or anything. And they said, Linda, you will calm them down. I said, okay.
That's your thing. I walked out of my bedroom one night into the dining room, which is now my studio, going to the bathroom, which I live in a weird house, guys. But I walked out, and there was a huge brick wall where there hadn't been when I went to bed. And I went, okay, guys, what's with the wall? And they said, paint the wall. So I looked down, there's a big paintbrush, like a wallpaper brush, and I brushed it across the wall, and it melted the bricks. It's like a Chicago red brick wall. And I said, my first question was, what the hell kind of paint is that? And they said, look beyond the wall. And I looked beyond the wall, and there was this gorgeous garden. It had veggies, and it had plants, and I said, what's that? And they said, it's your garden. And I said, why do I have this garden? And they said, it's a garden you're going to invite people in to plant their spiritual seeds.
Oh, Nancy's Gardens.
That's what it's there for. It's for people to come and learn. That's what this whole thing's about with talking to all the psychics, because everybody has a different way and a different seed. And that may be the seed the person needs to hear about to figure out how to find their own power.
Yes.
So, and has your work changed your worldwide views and beliefs?
Oh, God, yes. The power of manifestation, people just don't, we only use a little percentage of it. But if the whole world could stand in that realm of no thought and allow and say, this blockade around what's his name, and just say, be gone, you have no power here. It's, we can't wish ill, but we can put the blockade up. But those things, look what's happening now. It's amazing. And he's pissing off his people.
Well, and the thing is, more people are not focusing on news. They're not living from headline to headline. And from what
a lot of people are tired of the news. Yeah.
They're just, and it's not just boredom. It doesn't serve my spiritual wealth.
Well, also, they're doing a lot of that for money. That's part of the reason they were sitting on the fence, kind of wanting Trump to be king, because that's pay dirt for them. But what's happening is people aren't watching it anymore. So they didn't get the pay dirt they wanted.
They're not, and they're all going to get fired and lost and weird.
In fact, I just read something, you'll laugh. President, what's his name, just said he thinks Gavin Newsom should be arrested for harassing the president.
Putin?
No. President Trump just did it.
Okay. Yeah.
For harassing Newsom. He wants Newsom arrested for harassing the president.
No.
The man who talks ugly about everybody, even Meryl Streep. He's always got something to say.
Okay. And then what's one of the most powerful readings you've ever done? One that just touched you or you carry with you or you remember?
There's two of them. One was before I was considered, a reader. I had dabbled to go through nursing school.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pediatric patient. I was in my pediatric rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And an 8-year-old boy who was the same age as my daughter had a neuro, the one that kills you.
Yes.
And he had a big family. The other student and I went in to give him his bed bath. He was unconscious already. I hadn't met him when he was alert.
Mm-hmm.
Strong heartbeat and stuff. So we went in there and the mom was there. She came in from New York. She was a little dark-haired thing. She was sitting on the chair. And the other student opened her big mouth and said, "You should ask Linda," because she's saying, I know he's going to go, but I'm wondering when he'll be able to go, I just want to know if he's going to be okay when he goes. And she said, "Ask Linda. She's a psychic." So I was so mad.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's the last thing you want is people telling you.
And also, I was in a student program, so I didn't know if they found out I did that, if I would be kicked out, So the lady begged me, "Please, Linda, please." So we closed the door, and I took my hand, and I went down by his feet, and I went up his body, trying to feel his chakras.
Right.
I felt nothing right here, right at the throat. I got a pretty strong boom, like there was something there. I saw as clear as day this woman walking towards me from the light. Beautiful woman, looked a lot like the woman behind me. And she says to me, and she was wearing this particular necklace, like with a snake on it. It was a very unusual necklace.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "Tell her he'll leave with me tomorrow morning." And when I said that, the woman collapsed behind me, fortunately into the chair. And she said, "Linda, that was my mother. And that's her necklace. And it was 1 year ago tomorrow that she died." So it's like, holy cow.
So she's going to come back on her anniversary.
And so the next day I go in for, we were supposed to meet and do our talk. And then we go up to the room and they said, "Oh, yes, we have some sad news. The little boy died this morning." So I go upstairs and we come off the elevator and his room is packed because his father was a sheriff. And the little boy was in, baseball. He had all kinds of pictures of him. Mm-hmm. And I walked by and everybody's gathered and stuff. And all of a sudden, right between them, that little mother of his could see me. And she comes flying out of there. "Oh, my God, Linda, thank you, thank you." My instructor was standing there. And she said, because of you, I know he's going to be okay. Thank you. So I know Mama's got him. And I said, I was probably a little standoffish because I was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
But the teacher didn't react at all. She didn't say, what did you do? Nothing. She just walked on and we went on about our business. She probably knew what happened, but she wasn't going to embarrass me with it. So.
And you said you had another one after that. That's a pretty spectacular one.
That's spectacular. And then there's that one that I had, Angel Heart for You. It was a woman who was sobbing, lost her son. He was riding a motorcycle and hit an 18-wheeler.
Yeah.
And while I'm talking to her, the son walks through the wall. And he's standing up with this beautiful beard and long hair,
Mm-hmm.
and crystal blue eyes. And I looked down and he had motorcycle boots on. And he begins to tell me what happened, that he had an 18-wheeler, wasn't able to stop in time, put his bike down. And he even told me they had revived him a couple of times, but he wasn't really back.
Mm-hmm.
He was still dead. And he told me about going into the hospital and he could hear all the screaming. That was his mom and his girlfriend. And he's telling me about his girlfriend, that he had 2 little kids. He wished he had married her. He was stubborn and wouldn't marry her, but now he wished he had. And then this woman is just sobbing. I can't look at her because I was afraid I was going to cry. And she said, she looked at me. Oh, he looked at me and said to me, would you tell my mother I'm more alive now than when I had a body?
Aha.
Tell her to knock it off. This isn't about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's.
And so I gave her that thing, but boom, that was huge. There's so many things that have happened that are just amazing.
It's hard to pick them.
Like the woman I read, this woman, your mother's here. Oh, she wants to know where's her right foot. And they both, the 2 sisters looked at each other. They said, our mom was in a plane accident, and the only thing they found of her body was her right foot.
Oops. Yeah, I've one like that. I don't do much mediumship. It's not my thing. Mm-hmm. But I was sitting at a table and this young woman came up, and she'd come from your part of the world. She'd come from California, and she was going to have to make a decision about changing careers, making a career change. So she decided to come to Dallas. I said, oh, do you have friends here? And she said, no, I don't know anywhere. She was staying at this gorgeous old Victorian house that had been changed into a B&B. But what she'd read about was that the vintage store I was in was one of the top vintage stores in America, and to come in. And I said, oh, and do you go to readers often? She said, never, because my mother could read cards. And I said, oh, did she ever read yours? And she said, no, she died when I was very young. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I said, let's look. And so we looked at her job thing, and all of a sudden my guide, Addie, because they know I don't like to do the medium thing. Addie goes, she's here. And I said to the woman across the table, excuse me for a second. I said, who's here? And she said, her mother.
So did you talk to her mom?
Yeah, her mother said, I want to talk to her, and I brought her here so she could talk to me. And so I said, okay, but she didn't come looking for you. So I said, your mother's here. She's talking to me through my guide. That's why I'm turning around and looking over this shoulder. And the woman said, okay, what does she want to say to me? Because you could tell she kind of had a chip on her shoulder about whatever gone on with mom. And her mother said, tell her it wasn't her fault. I didn't leave because of who she was. I left because if I had lived, I would have ruined her.
Whoa.
And so I said, that's a weird message, but I gave it to the woman anyway. And she started to cry, and she said an aunt, her father kind of separated from the mother's family after the mother died. And the mother died of cancer, by the way. And I said, what can you do when you have cancer? But anyway, her aunt had shown up about a year ago in her life. And they went out to lunch a few times, and her aunt said to her at one of the lunches, I know why my sister left. If she had stayed, she would have ruined you because she was such a strong figure. She had her when she was in her mid 40s. The mother was in her mid 40s, and she knew if she got her life there, but her the best thing her mother could do is to back out of her life.
That's interesting. I've
And
never
I
heard
said,
that before.
and I said, and your aunt kind of confirmed that to you? And she said, yes, she told me my mother was a very strong-willed person, and she may be very different on the other side now, but she would have tried to run my life, and my father never did.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay. And she and I talked about a little bit more about it. And yeah, you're right. When you run into one of those readings, it's like,
Yeah.
so we're not convincing anybody to become a psychic.
It makes you want to keep going because you know that it's true.
Mm-hmm. Any daily habits or things that you recommend that you do?
Chocolate every day.
What?
Chocolate every day.
Oh yeah. Do you just the super dark chocolate?
No, I'm just
Hershey's.
I was reading what kind of dietary things they recommend for stones, and they said stay away from chocolate. I said, oh hell no.
No, we're done. This diet's now done.
Next.
Mm-hmm. So, how can anyone find a trustworthy psychic community or a mentor? I'm getting this all the time because a lot of people are waking up, but they don't know
Where to go.
where to go.
Well, I know YouTube helps you, and you can start going being a regular on a YouTube show, and they start getting to know you, and you meet other people. I really like the YouTube community.
There are some YouTubers, Terry Holding Your Space. She does a show every morning.
Wow.
And she brings them in to talk about things. And that's a good place to start. She had her degree in metaphysics before she left high school because her family was in it.
That's great.
So, and
yeah, there's people that have shows that are very loving and warm. I'm sorry, mine got kind of big to where it's hard to give personal attention, but there's a lot of people out there.
Yeah. And then how can someone find, oh, that I did that one. What's the biggest lesson you've learned from your psychic journey? Oh, pick one.
What's the biggest lesson I've learned from my psychic journey?
Mm-hmm.
There's no such thing as death.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a powerful energy, a God energy that does exist, and religion is a big farce.
Mm-hmm. Religion is called that because they wanted to put rules on everything. They wanted the dogma and the...
Yeah. It's always for power. Even that Catholic religion, it used to be priests could be married, and they changed that because they wanted the estate of the priest when he died. They didn't want it going to the wife and kids. And then they changed the fish on Fridays because the seagoers weren't paying enough tithing. And they changed things to whatever. And I knew a lot of Portuguese family on my street, and so many of them, the women were having children back to back because that's how the Catholics did it.
That's right. Well, that is my last question. And we have some questions on the table that have to do with politics. But I will tell you this, I only do politics on Sunday morning.
I'm going to do a show after this on politics.
Okay, so y'all can go over there. I'm going to put up, okay.
But tell us your journey of what happened to you. You're in DE.
Okay. Well, 2 months ago today, I was released from the hospital, and I had, I'd felt kind of ill that day, and I was declining, and I have a nebulizer. I've had asthma in the past, and I had all the stuff that's supposed to revive you. By the way, I put up my website. You get free letters to Robin, which is about how to find a dowsing chart. That's what this is in reference to. But in the same resources folder, you will find the violet flame. But anyway, to get back to where we started to go, I came back about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, and I was going to try and release my breathing one more time. And I was sitting on the bed, and I have these voices that are behind me. And let's see. Let's see. I have a picture of them. I actually did a picture of this to show to a group of people what I was talking about. This is what I was sitting on my bed, and except it was a nebulizer, not a candle. And the voices came behind me, and they said, "Look to your right." And I looked over to the right, and in the right in my bedroom is my little sitting area, which is a nice, comfortable chair and my big screen TV and all that stuff, except it wasn't there. What was there was a big golden path and a beautiful garden for me to walk through. And they said, "You can go now." And I said, "Do we have a plan B?" I don't think And they said, "Yes. You can turn to the left, go down the hallway, and call the ambulance. You've got 4.5 hours."
Whoa.
And I walked down the hallway, and my daughter, who does see spirits in this world, we used to live in a building where a lot of old people had died. She used to tell them to go to the light all the time. When I walked around the corner, she thought she was going to have to tell me to go to the light. She said, "That's what I look like, not Mom." And so she was already calling 911. And it took her a couple days for me to even be able to tell her that the pathway had been in my bedroom, because she was like, "I don't want to hear this. You're not going anywhere." Anyway, they took me in the ambulance, and the firemen were saying our ambulances in Dallas are run by the fire department. They were saying, "Which hospital do you want to go to?" And the guy said, "She doesn't have any choice. We're 5 minutes, lights and everything from this hospital. They have a great lung heart unit. That's where she's going." So I ended up in a hospital called Medical City, which I'd never been in before. And when they took me in, my blood pressure was 240 something over 130 something, which is like not a blood pressure you're supposed to have. No. And my oxygen sats were in the upper 80s, and they wheeled me in. And I know a code blue team because I used to work in emergency rooms. I know what it looks like. And I realized I was being rolled into a code blue room. And they started working on me, and it was interesting. Anyway, 4 hours after I got wheeled in there, the doctor came in and said, "We're going to be able to take you up to the floor. You're going to make it."
Fantastic.
But I am now having to write a book about this, which we all do, because the whole 4 or 5 days I was in the hospital, every single day was a miracle. They knew I was a psychic, and matter of fact, the first nurse that worked with me, I did her birth date, and I told her by her numbers, I told her where she'd been the last 4 years and where she was going. And I said, "You're planning to do this next year?" And she kind of looked at me and said, "This is strange." But anyway, my pulmonologist came in, and he said, "My name is Victor, and I'm your pulmonologist now." And I said, "Okay, Victor, why are you my pulmonologist?" And he said, "Because I come from Colombia. I come from a generation of shamans, and I know who you are." And he said, "I know how to heal you." And I said, "How did you know?" And he said, "Well, everybody's talking about what you've done with your numbers and stuff." My second nurse that was in charge of me, he was from a Louisiana family that was full of card readers. And he said, "My grandma said I'm going to read cards one day, but I never believed her." And I was talking with him, and I said, "Well, today's going to be kind of rough." He said, "Today's going to be definitely your 10 of Wands day. You're going to have to decide to let that burden go." And I carry a deck of cards in my phone, and I called up my daily card, and it was the 10 of Wands.
Wow.
I mean, every single day. And then I work with the elementals. I work with a lot of fairies and stuff. My dragon came to kiss me and tell me I was going to be okay. But I was like, am I going to get cut off from the elementals? Because I was they said, everything you do is going to change. And I said, am I going to get cut off from the elementals? And all of a sudden my room was full of fairy lights, like a swarm of them. So yeah, it was, the hospital was interesting, boring as hell, because I hate lying there like that. But anyway, it was a real trip. And the one thing I did, I think it was the second day I was home, I had an oxygen lead that I could go to the front of the house or come to the back of the house. I couldn't go in the kitchen because you don't take oxygen in where there's a gas stove. Um, and I went up to the front and I was walking back down the hall and I said, why do I feel like this? And they said, you're no longer angry. And I said, what? And they said, in order to survive, you can no longer be angry. A lot of people, if you're a cancer survivor, I've heard from cancer survivors, one day you reach that wall and you get, I can't be angry anymore.
No. We can't mutually, if you'll notice, a lot of young people leave with dropping dead.
Oh, yeah.
You can't live on this plane right now carrying that kind of hate. And that's why I'm surprised Trump's still alive.
No, I further in my series of psychics, I'm going to be reading a guy named Robert who does Akashic Records. And he's been channeling with another reader. And he told me I could say this part. They've been working on a book and they've been channeling in some very powerful energy. And he told me that what they were told, he was well into this book before the fall elections happened. And he said afterwards, he was like, why did this happen? And they said, because it's the fastest way for humans to make the decision they may need to make. And that's what I was told about. You know, I've always heard the NDE experiences where an angel takes them and they go to heaven and they meet all these people and then they come back. I did not have that ride, kids. I just said, no, I'm not going right. I'm going to go left. And they said more and more people are going to be able to see their exit dates and make a rational decision about which way to go.
Wow.
And I said, well, what's going on now? And they said a lot of people are going to understand that where their psyche is, where their spirit is, where their center is what leads the world. And they said, you knew that. That's why I bowed out of doing political readings a long time ago, because first of all, I used to be a political consultant and I know that world altogether too well. You've met Sean, my son. He still is. And it's not a place where you're ever going to find peace.
Never.
You're never going to bring us our peace. We have to find it inside ourselves. So that's and I mean, watch the political readers, because they give you some clarity and locking.
That's why I watch the shows, only to get the information.
Mm-hmm.
Because most people don't watch it.
Oh, I know. I mean, I can't even hardly watch Rachel Maddow, and I watch her only when
I just don't love her.
I love her. And there's a lot of political reporters I know. There's a lot of political people I know. But right now, with where the energy in the universe is, it's not a good.
As you go up the chain of command and you start getting to where you're in that nothingness, where you allow, those type of things don't affect you as badly as they did before.
No.
You're not as reactive, because you know this too shall pass. You know, you just say, oh, what a shame. Okay, let's move on. You know.
Yeah. When I got over my fear of death, that was my biggest fear. One day I was sitting at my desk and all of a sudden the universe was laid out in front of me, like all the galaxies and the planets. And I was sitting on the edge of it and I go, what's all this? And they said, don't ask us. And all of a sudden I understood that I was one with every planet, every galaxy, every cell, everything. We were all one. And there is no death. As long as those things live and move and are a part of the world, we're part of it. When I came back from that and that little trip to the edge of the universe, that is another thing that totally changed me. And that I said, is that why I get to understand the rocks and the crystals and things? And they said, yeah, because they're all alive to me. I think the rocks are alive.
Yeah. And that's your purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's your purpose.
It's to try and help people find out.
is to help people stay calm. Although him winning and unlike what we prophesied didn't help. But as we go on and I see why, and I can see his own people hating him, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's not just that. You know, people came on because I do a political show on Sunday mornings with Scott, and they were like, "You were wrong," and I said, "I've never told you I'm always right."
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if 90% of what I say is right, and that's the 10% that's wrong, we don't control that. And there was a chance for us to cross differently, but we, as a universe, and it's not just the US, it's the rest of the world too.
Well, also don't forget he had Elon Musk and he had a lot of cheating going on.
Right. That's what Sean's show that he just did one on Substack, and he went into how Trump's numbers are really lower than zero. They really are when you clump them all together. But also he talked about a little bit about the cheating and about how that's all going to come to light and how people can use it. But if you want to see Sean, you need to see him now because he's about to go to work on some major campaigns. And when he does that, he retires his talking to people like where we are.
Yeah.
So.
Well, girlfriend, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on. And let me see where we are with. Okay.
I feel a little bit dizzy.
Yeah. I feel a little loose.
I was laying down all day yesterday, but look, my cheeks still look rosy, so I'm not.
You're doing fine. I think your energy's fine.
Okay, cool.
And guys, Linda's going to do a political show after this, and
it's not going to be live.
No. Oh, okay. And Danny Shea's in the house.
Hey, Danny.
Anyway, this is what. Linda is the second. The first one I did is Sheila. I'm going to put them out as a podcast, so you'll be able to go if you want to see it. And it's going to be the kind of thing you can go to at any time and see how we see ourselves and how we see the world. And if you are one of the 3,514 people watching us live now, and you haven't joined my channel, and I know you haven't.
How many people are watching?
3,514.
Yeah. That's good.
Go over, like, and subscribe to my channel because I've got about 30 readers lined up, and there's some readers you've heard of. There are readers. There's some that are just starting out. There's a woman who's just started doing energy work that learned to read tarot from me, and she called me up to talk to me about her energy work. I've got people who work with plasma, people who heal, people who do all kinds of stuff, and you know, maybe you can find where your little seed should go in my garden.
There you go. There you go.
And Linda, I just love and adore you. And I so hope your PET scan just goes flawlessly.
Oh, yeah, I'll be sure to write and let you guys. By the way, my Lulu got through fabulously.
Oh, cool. Yes.
She's doing good. I told you it was a little rough at first. She didn't get to have breakfast. And then we go to the vet, and what do? They weigh her as soon as she gets in there. She was very shook up. So was I.
Well, my cat.
My girls don't like being weighed.
Oh, I agree with your girls. Anyway, you have a lovely time. I hope everything keeps going along and your PET scan goes well. You have so many love and light.
Oh, I sure do. Thank you, Nass, and I think Lisa's here, and Kevin's, my Kevin Loving and Kevin Medium.
Yeah, Kevin, I need to get a hold of you because I put out a thing. What other readers would you like to see be part of this? And Kevin's name came up, and a couple of people suggested.
Water Lily. Thank you, you guys. Yeah, there's Kevin. A lot of great people here.
Good. Well, I'm glad. And if you are a reader and you're interested in being part of the series and you'd like to volunteer your name, you can contact me. I've got a banner for that.
Awesome.
That's my email. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetie. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.